Wild Gardens game is a competitive game about set collection with a very friendly theme. You collect food, then you make dishes with it, and then you invite your friends over to eat the stuff. It's very friendly, very nice. So the general idea is that you have this board here and you'll be moving around collecting food. You don't collect these tokens here, they just tell you what is available in each space, and each space has 3 ingredients that are available. Then you will collect those using these tokens here. I do not know if the wooden tokens here are standard or some kind of upgrade. This is a review copy that the publisher sent me, but definitely it is pretty nice and pretty fun to use these wooden components here. So you move around the board, collect ingredients, then you use those ingredients to cook. There are 6 recipes that are available, and each recipe tells you what you need to cook it. So for example, 5 lettuce and 2 mushroom to cook the lamb quarters gratin, the weird forest kelp for sea lettuce granola, and so on and so forth. Each kind of food also corresponds to a certain type. You got dessert, you got salads, you got smoothies, and then you have a line of potential friends that will come over if you serve them the correct food. And so each person has 1 or more types of food. Person or friend. Sometimes you have also some animal friends. Each potential friend has 1 or 2 kinds of foods that they want. And so, for example, Elena will come over if you serve salad, and Rowan if you serve pasta, and the Acres, they want a pastry and also any other kind of thing. They have special effects that may be triggered when served, which is when you give them the food and they come to your play area. Other ones, they need to be discarded to activate that effect. Other characters will give you an effect at the end of the game, a scoring at the end of the game. Food will give you points when you cook it, and friends will give you points when they come over. Again, sometimes the amount is fixed and some of the times is determined at the end of the game. Some of these friends will have jar symbols, and we'll see later what that does, if I remember. As for the general, for the flow of the game lasts 6 turns divided into 2 main rounds. Each round represents a day of going out there and foraging, serving food, and doing all the other stuff. You have a deck of cards. You shuffle these location cards together at the beginning of the game, and then you flip 1 face up. Look, Bloomington, Indiana, which is where I live. Love it. I love it that it's in the game. And so you will have a combination of a location with a special effect for that round, and then you have these 4 effects here, these 4 bonuses here. We'll see what they do. The idea is that you will have, again, 3 rounds representing a day each. After that, you do a little bit of reset, and then you and your friends travel to another location where you will be now foraging for food and inviting friends over. Now we are in Toronto, and again we do that. So it's a total of 2 journeys, 3 rounds each journey, and a total of 6 rounds in the game. You will use your personal player board here to organize your actions. So each player has a board such as this one, and each player has 5 action tokens. We go around the table alternating, taking turns. When it is your turn, you take 1 of your action tokens and you place it in 1 of these 3 areas. Now, as the game progresses, there may be other tokens here also. There may be tokens here that will give you special effects and actions, and you activate those when you activate that action. So if I place my token here to perform that action, then I also gain the benefit of those tokens there. So I have a little bit of an engine building element here. First, after you place your action token on your player's board, first you move by that number of spaces, the one indicated on your action token, and that's mandatory, exactly that number, and you move following the arrows on the board. And so I must move this way, 1, 2, if I place the number 2 token there. So we always push toward this side of the board or that side of the board there, those two exits. And once I am there, then I'm in a weird folded space, because see, it says there exit number 2 and exit number 1. And up there it says exit number 2, and right here it says exit number 1. So when my token following the arrows is pushed out of the board, it magically teleports back from the corresponding exit. If I if I exited from 2, I re-enter from 2, and if I exited from 1, from 1. If I got the exit that says 1 and 2, then I choose where I want to come back, and I keep going around again in this strange spherical cylindrical space with no exit. So first I move by the number indicated there. Then I can perform the action where I place my token. This is foraging, so I will simply collect ingredients adjacent to the area where I ended my movement. So if I ended there, I can collect the bark. It looks like there are a lot of more recipes including bark than I ever knew. Turns out bark or mushroom or berries, any combination, as long as I collect two standard 3, because I have that one also. And so I just collect the corresponding tokens. That's for the foraging action, which is of course very important, because what are we going to cook with otherwise? If I have enough ingredients, I can choose to cook. I can cook only if I am in the I can cook only if after moving I am in a picnic area. So I place the 2 there and I move 1, 2. As you can see, and you saw by the little bit of maneuvering I did there, which would not be allowed during the game, and you have to plan if you want to end up in a picnic area. There are a lot of them, but also your movement is restricted, so you still have to do some planning. If I end in a picnic area, then I can cook, which is I discard a certain number of food tokens to gain the corresponding card. As you do that, you can also trade any 3 ingredients for any other one. So if I am short on these ones, I can discard these for this one. So I cook, good for me, and that means I collect the food and I place it in the cooked recipes area. I can also, by using this action, if after moving, if I place my token here, and after moving I'm in a picnic area, I can also choose to serve food instead, which is when I call people to eat my delicious food. And so, for example, I discard these 2 cards to call these people here, and they give me points at the end of the game. So that's for the cooking and serving action. And then we got studying and reserving. Reserving is pretty simple. You collect a food card or a friend card that you're not food you haven't cooked yet, friends you haven't served yet. So you reserve them, they're in a personal area, you're the only person who can cook that recipe or summon those friends later. Although again, they don't count as cooked or summoned yet. They also scored 2 victory points. Yay! Or the other action is to study. So here we have the library. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? As Deadpool famously said, one of the greatest lines that he ever said. This is where the biblioteca is, where the library is. You can collect a token. Those tokens, remember, they give you upgrades here. You can collect a token adjacent to a book that corresponds to one of the foods available in your area. So right now I could study a book adjacent to the kelp, to the berries, or to the flowers. That means I could collect that token there because it's adjacent to the berries. What else do we have? The flower. The flower is there, the kelp. So these are the 3 tokens that I could collect right now. Once I collect one, suppose I collect this one, I also take the book that doesn't really do much other than occupy one of those slots there. The idea is precisely, if I understand correctly, to slow you down, because you can study only if you still have room on your shelves and you haven't checked out more than 2 books from the library. If you do, if you're in that situation, want to study more, you have to discard a token as a free action to return a book to the library. And these are our actions. That's the idea. You place your action token, execute the action, and take it from there. Once all of your tokens have been allocated, then you have a mandatory action that you must take, which is to rest. And you will take one of your tokens and you will place it here on the journey board, whatever it's called. You will place it there. The number that you place there also indicates the bonus that you collect. So if I did that, now I can I can discard a mushroom and a flower to get the jar advantage. What is that? Do you remember early on I told you that the jar symbols matter? You start with a jar symbol printed on your board and you may collect more jars from the friends that have come over to eat your food. If I have these 2 in my play area, then I have 3 jars, remember, plus the 1 printed on my board. When I get the jar advantage, what I do, I go to the scoreboard. Ultimately, the reason we do what we do is to score points. And I advance my jar token by the number of jars. 1, 2, 3, if I have 3 jars. So as you can see, it's a way of scoring the 3 points. Every other source of victory points, the ones indicated by stars, then you simply advance them with this other token. Oh, look, I scored 6 points, like that. At the end of the game, you will collect all the points from your pollinator and from your jar. You just see the jar jumps around a little more unpredictably, but to be able to score with that one, you had to build a little bit of a jar engine. At the end of the day, after you rested, this doesn't go back. So now the next day, we're gonna play with 4 action rounds. When they're all done, resting will take another one there. So as you can see, the 2nd and the 3rd day of a journey will be shorter. After everybody has rested 3 times, that is when the journey ends. We do a little bit of reset and we go somewhere else to forage and make friends and cook food. That's the idea. Play for 6 rounds, collect food, cook it, call friends over, and enjoy great meals and hopefully a lot of victory points. And this is how you play Wild Gardens. Wild Gardens is a fun game, but it may go a little slow, especially the first time that you play it, because, well, you see the DNA there probably of Splendor, Century, and the idea of like going around and collecting things to buy more stuff, and then you buy more stuff. In particular here, the chaining of ingredients, food, and then and then friends reminded me, of course, in Splendor you have gems, and then you have bigger gems, and then you have materials, then you have gems, and then you summon the aristocrats. But here there are a lot more of these. And another thing is that the game doesn't have quite the same engine building of Splendor, for example, because by cooking food you don't get the same amount of discounts. It makes it a lot easier to make more food later on. Again, you have some engine building, some extra actions that probably you want to grab early on, so you're going to see people study early on, but that You collect, you spend, you collect, you spend, you collect, you spend. It's still fun and interesting, mind you. By the way, I'm just telling you that the flow, it can feel a little slow, and so it takes a little longer for people to get comfortable with it, and so for gameplay to start flowing. Then when it does, it's extremely fun and satisfying, of course, but there's the caveat there. The components are stunning. Also, these are some of the best components I've seen in a very long time. I love the art. I love the gallery of different human and even animal types that you have in the art and in the illustrations. It is a simple yet engaging set collection game. It also has a solitaire option in which, and I tried the actual solitaire option. Very often I play my solitaire games two-handed solo, but here, I don't know if you noticed, the character cards have little speech bubbles with numbers, so 132 for example. And you have different scenarios, so it's not that the solo game is always the same. So it's almost like a game book, a paragraph-based kind of experience, very different in that sense from the original, or somewhat different, because depending on the scenario, you'll be trying to serve food to specific characters, as explained at the beginning of the scenario, and once you serve the food, then you go and read the paragraph corresponding to the speech bubble, and you see how the story takes you from there. If you're playing solo, of course, you don't have any of the problems of the downtime that may be a case with some players in some situations, especially early on. It's you're playing, you're unlocking different events, you're discovering how things go, and then you still have the fun of cooking, preparing, things like that. It's a game with a lot of tiny little challenges, say, figuring out how to go to the picnic area when you need it is not super tough, but it's something to think about. Deciding which token you're committing when you're resting and you won't have it later, it's not particularly complicated or like haunting. Oh my gosh, if I make a mistake there, but it's interesting. Starting to collect food for a certain ingredients for a certain kind of food, and then you realize there are better options. You change your strategy there. It's a game with a lot of tiny, interesting decisions, but not a lot of pressure. It's a pretty forgiving game, and I like that. I think that the gameplay captures the spirit, the kind of experience that I imagine I'll have from here, of an engaging, yes, but also pretty relaxed game. And this is what Wild Gardens is, and it really works the way. It's about making friends, and it's a pretty friendly game in that sense. From time to time, somebody will be in your way, so you cannot stop in that area when you move, but probably they haven't done that just to take away the opportunity from you, because in the long run it doesn't pay off. You do your thing and everybody tries to do their best at the same time. Definitely more of a parallel race towards scoring as many points as possible, rather than trying to get in each other's way. It's a friendly, peaceful, very beautiful game that also works very well in solitaire mode. And this is my assessment of Wild Gardens.